Megann Marcellino, and I want to welcome you back to Generations at the Table. Thank you so much for pulling up a seat and joining me today. I really want to dive right in. Today, I want to talk to you about making hard decisions and letting go of the easy button, or at least letting go of the expectation of maybe putting the easy button. Okay, so Proverbs 6, let's just start right out in the word. 6:10 says this: if you keep nodding off and thinking, I'll do it later, or say to yourself, I'll just sit back a while and take it easy, just watch how the future unfolds. By making excuses, you'll learn what it means to go without. Poverty will pounce on you like a bandit and move in as your roommate for life. Those are some pretty harsh words. But when you think about poverty, poverty is not just a lack of material things like a financial poverty, but we can have poverty in our health. We can have lack. We can have poverty in our relationships. I mean, poverty just represents a lack of, not enough. So think health, relationships, time, resources. It's all of those things. But it happens a lot of times when we make excuses. And I mentioned this a few episodes ago, but sometimes I really struggle with decision fatigue because of my role in our organization or in our family. I just feel like I can't make one more decision. Please don't ask me to make one more decision. Don't ask me what we're having for dinner. I don't know. My daughter Arabella, she's 8, and she is a lot like me, the good and the bad. And so I try and have patience with her because I see myself in her, but she's a planner, and plans and surety make her feel better and more comfortable. So sometimes I try and not tell her about something unless I know a lot of the answers, because I know she's going to ask me a lot of questions. And I think sometimes that's how it is with the Lord, right? Like He drops something into our heart, a vision, something new for the future, an open door. And we're like, but how are you going to do this? And what about this? And are you going to take care of that? And what are you going to do about this? My dad often said to me when he was considering trying to find his biological father, my Grandpa Joe, he was like, I don't know if I want to open up this can of worms. And the Lord told him, when I open up a can of worms, I take care of all the worms. But I think sometimes we want to know all the answers, and we take to remove faith and trust out of the equation before we walk through that door of what God has for us. We want to push the easy button. We don't want to make those hard decisions, because sometimes hard decisions are hard, and they are in regards to negative things, yucky things. But other times hard decisions are they're still good. It's just hard to make it because it's going to cost us something. And so I think we can take this wisdom from the Proverbs and realize that we do not want to live, what did it say? We don't want to be pounced by poverty. We don't want it to be a roommate for a life, because we are making excuses and not making those hard decisions. So like Arabella, who likes to know and likes to plan, I also like to know and plan. But sometimes you have to make those hard decisions with limited knowledge and just trust the Lord with the details. So we're always faced with hard decisions. It may be hard decisions for you personally. It may be something regarding your family, your business, your church and ministry. Maybe you're in a place of leadership. You have to make hard decisions regarding your time, your health, finances. And I want to speak to you today as a leader, because I hope that there are leaders and people who are of influence listening. But even if not, you are a leader in your own home. And even if you don't see yourself as that, you are a leader of yourself. You are the one leading your life with your decisions and with your choices. You are not simply a victim of your circumstances. You are not just along for the ride. Now, you may be living like that. That may be your passive decision, letting life happen to you. But the truth is that you are a leader, and you get to choose. You get to choose. Are you going to honor the words of God? Are you going to live by His instruction and reap the benefits of and have the empowerment of? And if you choose otherwise, then you're leading yourself astray, which basically, ultimately, what I'm trying to say is, in some way, in some form, even if it's just for yourself, you are a leader. So today I speak to you as such. Hard decisions have the power to transform us, okay? They have the power to unlock destiny. Sometimes hard decisions in our destiny are truly hinged upon one another, but are you making them, or are you making excuses? Are you living in that gray area. I can't decide. The consequence of. I listened to someone the other day and they were talking about making a decision and then saying, I regret this decision. I wish I would have done XYZ. I wish I would have gone to a different school. I wish I would have, done this vacation instead. I wish I would have bought that house, made that investment, whatever it is. But at the end of the day, the question becomes, how do you know? Like, yes, we can look back at our decisions, absolutely, and say, I wish that I would have done something differently. But ultimately, like, how do you know what the result of that would have been? Like, you can't live in that constant past regret. So learn to make the right decisions. And we make the right decisions when we make our decisions according to the word. Sometimes we have to say no to things, and that is the hard decision. I can tell you that as a family, saying we're going to try our best to honor Shabbat is sometimes a hard decision. It's a decision that I love, but loading up our 3 kids and taking them to House of David is hard, and not always like this, oh, I'm really looking forward to putting these kids in the car again. And, it's not easy, but it's the culture of our family and it's important. So we do it. Making a choice to honor Shabbat and trying not to take on a bunch of outside activities, which means we've had to say no to sporting events, and sometimes we say no to social events. Sometimes it's hard and it goes against our desires of what we want. See, I think that's why we want to push the easy button, because the easy button is what our desires like lean towards. But what do you really want? Where do you want to be in the end? And sometimes where you want to be in the end is those hard decisions. It's that work ethic to get up and to do something. I don't know if you've ever heard of the workout Insanity. My gosh, I do not recommend it, but Paul and I did it years ago. It was right before we had our first baby. And I mean, it's just like we pushed ourselves and we did it, and it was terrible. But it was a really good exercise in like the lesson of discipline and doing something when you don't want to do it. Because trust me, it was like, I think it was 6 days a week. I did not want to do it, but the achiever in me, like that I can do this, I'm going to be challenged by it, that it pushed me through. But I had to make those hard decisions to like get up and do it. And trust me, I have not stuck with anything like that since then. But my point is that what I wanted, the end result of accomplishing something, knowing that I can do it, outweighed the hard decision of putting on those workout clothes one more time, lacing up those shoes, and sweating in the living room. So when you think about hard decisions and that people have been faced, think about, like, I was thinking about historical figures, and someone that came to mind was President Abraham Lincoln when he had the Emancipation Proclamation. So what that was it was declared that the slaves were going to be free and that we were no longer going to be a country that had slaves. And so they had it was everybody held in like the Confederate held areas. They were opposed to this, and the northern states were opposed to this, and this represented economic challenges. Was it the right decision? Absolutely. Was it what his heart wanted? Absolutely. But it was still hard, and it was faced with opposing viewpoints, but he still had to make it, and he changed the course of our country in the midst of that. So much weighed in the balance. But he did the right thing. He made the hard decision. He did not push the easy button and say, I'm just going to wait for the next person who takes leadership to deal with this. No, he lived by righteousness and justice. And so Robert Kawasaki says this: remember, the easy road often becomes hard, and the hard road often becomes easy. It's because the easy road often becomes the hard road later. So when we make decisions, like we were just talking about our health, but when we make decisions in regards to our health, and listen, I do this fully transparent, no judgment, but it's like, yeah, I'm just going to like throw the pizza in the microwave instead of make dinner. Well, it is the easy road, but the ultimate result of that is not your health later on and how you feel later on. I don't know about you, but since I've gotten older, I recognize how junk food makes me feel. And it's like, ugh, I don't really want to feel tired and gross later. I need to have energy for the kids. So I'm going to make a better decision. But in the moment, easy sounds really good. Easy sounds really nice. Bring on the button. John Maxwell says this: the pessimist complains about the wind. The optimist expects it to change. The leader, and remember, you're the leader of your life, adjusts the sails. So easy often leads to regret, but we can choose to adjust the sails, and we can choose to direct our life towards where we want to go. And then there's like the perspective of we have over time. Sometimes what seems hard now, we're going to look back and say, actually, that was easier than I expected. Or we have grown and we have strengthened ourselves and strengthened our habits and patterns so we can look back and say, hey, that was hard to the me of 2024, but in 2026, that is no longer considered a challenge. It's just like a muscle. You exercise it and you can go from 5 pounds to 10 pounds to 15 pounds. Jim Rohn said the pain of discipline is far less than the pain of regret. And hard choices come from a place of discipline. They come from a place of choosing the long-term gain over the short term. I want that. I don't want this. And so I'm going to make those changes. In the last episode, we talked about being generation changers. Well, we are generation changers. We shift the dynamic of our family and our values by making those hard choices. Those are not made in those easy ways. I talked to you about my grandmother who grew up in poverty and grew out of that and became a woman who was a leader and an owner in business. She and my grandfather owned many businesses of which she led, but she made some hard choices to get there along the way. That was not something that was handed to her. That was a decision to break out and break free and to basically change the dynamic of the generations to follow. And there's tremendous consequence to avoiding hard decisions. That comes in like procrastination or living in the easy way and just like, I'm not. But we literally can wreak havoc on your life when decisions go unmade. And I'm not saying to make decisions in haste, but I am saying sometimes you got to rip the Band-Aid. I say to our team, you got to call a spade a spade. And sometimes I struggle with it because I see a situation. Like I'm walking through a situation right now and I said, I can see the end result, but I know we need to go through the process. But trust me, I just want to skip the process, get to the end result and move on because that's my nature as a person. That's not necessarily the right nature. And God is kind and he takes us through the process and he allows us to work through that. He doesn't rush us. But there is consequences for leaving decisions unmade, and ignoring a problem certainly doesn't make it going away. James 1:8 says this. It says, for being as he is, this is the amplified version, a man of two minds, hesitating, dubious, or irresolute, he is unstable, unreliable, and uncertain about everything. He thinks, he feels, he decides. Indecision can cost you time, can cost you money, it can cost you relationships. So do not live in the valley of indecision. When God gives you direction, walk it out. Delayed obedience, as Rabbi often says, is disobedience. And then realize that you're going to be empowered through making those hard decisions. I've sat there where I've been like literally feeling like those, I get like that tingly in your palms and you just feel like that anxiety in your chest, like your lungs are tightening. And it's like, I can't believe we're having to make this hard decision. And maybe it's even a good one. Maybe it's one you're excited about, but it's still really scary and it's really hard. But once we do it, once we make it, once we step out in faith and we see the faithfulness of God, it empowers us and it builds resilience and it births our faith for the next big thing. Because see, today, that leap you may be taking, it may be like in essence like a 5-foot jump, but the next one's going to be 10 and 15 and 20. And again, when you live with what you want in the future on your mind, those leaps better get incrementally better and bigger and more challenging. And you're going to change in the midst. I've mentioned it before, but that whole concept of going through a 90-year goal, even though I recognize that most of us are not going to be here in 90 years, it really challenges you to say, what do you want for this next decade? What do you want for this, for the 2030s, the 2040s, the 2050s? Where do you see yourself? When I did that, I was like, man, we better start making some of these hard decisions now or we're never going to get there. And I'm just going to be a victim of circumstance. So hard decisions, they strengthen your character. They position you not only for the next day, but the next season and the next opportunity. John Maxwell says, a leader is one who knows the way, goes the way, and shows the way. So when you are leading yourself, you need to get in the Word so that you know the way. Then you need to align your life to live in discipline and obedience so that you can go the way. And then you are subsequently going to show the way to others. Maybe you say, I'm not a leader, I'm not an influencer, but someone is watching you. Whether it's a coworker, whether it's a spouse, whether it's a parent, a friend, maybe it's your kids. Someone is observing you. And what does your life say? What is your brand? What is your message? How are you living it? Because you can say one thing, but you can live another. And that inconsistency truly creates like a confusing wedge. And so what you want to do is be consistent with what you say you want and your life choices. And so here's the thing. Hard choices, you may be telling me like, hey, listen, I'm facing a choice right now that is much harder than anything you've ever walked through. And you might be right. You may be 100% accurate. I have not been on that precipice with you. I am not standing there looking in that decision. You're right. But you and I, we serve the same God. The same God who is faithful. And what he has brought me through faithfully, he can bring you through faithfully. Even if your situation is much more dire, even if you're standing at a precipice that is deep, you're like, oh, you said 5, 10, 15 feet. This is 100 feet. Okay. But God is able. And that's what I want to encourage you to do today, is to get to know the God who is able, so that he can walk you through those hard decisions, and that you do not press the easy button, and you do not press the easy way out, and that you do not remain in a place of indecision, but that you choose that destiny. You know, you say that you want your kingdom destiny unlocked. That's good. That's great. But are you willing to make the choices? Are you willing to embrace the identity? Are you willing to take on the habits and the patterns that it takes to get there? I believe that you are. Thank you so much for joining me today. I can't wait to see you again next week.